We saw that given a partial order, one can bring in an hierarchy among the elements of the underlying set. That's precisely captured in some sense by the assay diagram as well. Then we discussed something called least element and greatest element, and it turns out that if they both exist and it is unique, you don't find more than one greatest element for a given subset. Similarly, we don't find more than one least element for a given subset. And when it comes to maximal and minimal, it need not be unique. For example, if you take the subset to be 7, 11, then maximum is 7 and 11, minimum is 7 and 11. So for the subset 7, 11, you see that more than one maximal element exists. Similarly, more than one minimal element exists. So the other thing is minimal and maximal element, it exists for any given subset of A. You take say 2, 4, 6, 12, you see that 12 is maximum and 2 is minimum. If you take 4, 6 and 12, you see that 12 is maximum and 4, 6 is minimum. You take the element just 5 and both maximum and minimum are 5 itself. And for any subset, minimum and maximum exist. The interesting aspect of greatest elements and maximal elements, similarly least and maximal, is they are from the subset B. Can I go outside, can I go beyond B and talk about some special elements? Answer is yes. Here is one. We say B belonging to A is an upper bound for B. So you are given a poset A and a subset B. Now I am asking for an element. It need not be from B, and I am only asking from A. So either it could be part of B or maybe outside. An element B belonging to A is an upper bound for the subset B if for every element B prime you see that B prime is related to B, which means you see an arc from B prime to B. In the underlying assay diagram, B is above B prime, which means B is dominating every B prime. And lower bound is just other way. You see that B is below every other B prime in the underlying assay diagram. You see that B to B prime, B to B prime, B to B prime, and so on. So similar to what we did before, you fix a subset, one can talk about upper bound and lower bound. Let's take the set to be say 2, 4. For 2, 4, it says it's an element from B such that for all B prime in B, B is dominating B prime. So is 4 an upper bound? Yes. 4 belonging to A? Yes. But 4 is also part of B. That's fine. 4 is dominating 4. 4 is also dominating 2. But it gives you a cushion. It says that you can even pick B from A. Then are there elements in A which is dominating this? Answer is yes. 8 is dominating 4 as well as 2. And anything else? Can 12 dominate both 4 and 2? Answer is yes. So you see that upper bounds need not be unique. For the subset 2 and 4, 4 is an upper bound, 8 is an upper bound, 12 is an upper bound. Is 6 an upper bound? No, 4 and 6, they are not related. Okay. Similarly, what about lower bounds? And for the subset 2, 4 and 2 is for every B prime in B, and B prime is above. So 4 is above 2 and 2 and 2 are related, and 2 is my one of the lower bounds. I can also pick something from A. Is there something below which is dominated by these two? Answer is yes, 1. So both 2 and 1 are lower bounds for the subset 2 comma 4. So please note, I can pick B from A, so which means that B could be part of B itself, or it may be outside. When we picked 4, 4 is part of A as well as B. 8 is part of A but not part of B. Okay, so let's pick say 3, 5. So if we pick 3, 5, and is there something that is dominating both 3, 5 from A, and there is nothing above 3, 5, so there is no upper bounds for this. And 3, 5, is there something from A that is dominated by these two? Answer is yes. 1, 1, 3, 1, 5. But I don't find anything above 3, 5. Okay. So let's look at some other subset. For example, say 2, 3. And if I look at 2, 3, you see that 6 is dominating both, and 12 is also dominating. Say they both are upper bounds. When it comes to lower bounds, 1 is a lower bound. Fine. So here is an element in capital A which is dominating both 2 and 3, and here is an element in A which is dominated by 2, 3. So this one is a lower bound and this one is an upper bound. If you look at the entire set, you see that there is no upper bound, there is no element in A which can dominate all of them. 10 is not, 12 is not, there is no relation between 8 and 12. So this one is nil, and 1 is dominated by all of them. So 1 is. So if you take just one element, for example say 5, then 5 itself is an upper bound, and something above 5 is 10, so 10 is also an upper bound. For 5, 5 itself is a lower bound, and something below 5 is 1, so 1 is also a lower bound. Fine. Suppose if you take something like 2, for 2, 2 itself is an upper bound, and above 2 it is 4, above 4 it is 8, and this side if you go it is 6, and this side if you go it is 10. So you see that starting from 2, what all elements above this, they all dominate. So 12 is also an upper bound, so 6 is an upper bound, 12 is an upper bound. This side if you go, 10 is an upper bound. When it comes to lower bounds, 2 itself is a lower bound and 1 is also a lower bound. Now we see that it may exist, in some cases it need not. When it exists, it need not be unique. You see that more than one is possible. Okay. We define something called least upper bound. We say B is LUB, least upper bound. If B is an upper bound, and for all B prime, and B prime is an upper bound, this B is related to B prime. So which means you have multiple upper bounds, something like 4, 8, 12. Of all that, which upper bound is least? Which upper bound is dominated by the rest? And that is precisely this. Similarly, you have multiple lower bounds. Then we say greatest lower bound. Which is the lower bound that is dominating all other lower bounds? So why I want to identify one unique element out of this, one unique element out of this, so that you can talk about least and greatest and so on. So you have three upper bounds. As always, fix a subset, find upper bounds and lower bounds, then you get into least upper bound. And what is the least among these three? So it has to be an upper bound, no doubt. So which means focus on this. And for all other upper bounds, B prime is above B. So you have 4, 8, 12, and among this, which upper bound is dominated by the rest? It is 4. So least upper bound is 4. If you look at the assay diagram itself, you can see that the one that comes below is least. And upper bounds is 2, 1. If you look at the assay diagram, which lower bound dominates other, with respect to the assay diagram, it will come above. So 2 is greatest lower bound. When upper bound itself is nil, so naturally least is also nil. When lower bound is unique, greatest lower bound will also be unique, so it's one and the same. When you have multiple things, one can talk about least and greatest. So 6, 12, with respect to 6, 12, which is least? 6 is least. And it is just 1, you get this. When it is nil, this is also nil. When it is 1, it is also 1. And for 5, it is 5, 10. And 5, 10, which one is least? 5 is least, so you get 5. And 5, 1, which one is greatest? 5 is greatest. And you have 2, 4, 8, 6, 10, 12. Of all that, which one is least? It is least upper bound. 2, 1, which one is greatest? It is this. So observe that. So if LUB least upper bound or greatest lower bound exist, it may not exist in some cases, correct? If it exists, then it is unique. That's one observation. And the second observation is, because for all the lower bounds, we are identifying least element, greatest element. And the other thing is LUB or GLB. If you look at this, and where is this? So you look at 2, 4, and I think there is a mistake here. So when you look at 2, 3, are we right? Yeah, we are right. So when we look at 2, 3, and the upper bounds are 6 and 12. Okay, so it's 6 and 12, and least upper bound is this, and greatest lower bound is 1. When we look at 2, 3, yeah, it's correct. So if you look at least upper bound and greatest lower bound, if it exists, then it is unique. And there are examples where, for example, this one, if you look at least upper bound and greatest lower bound, they are outside B. If you look at this, you see that least upper bound and greatest lower bound both are from the set itself. And if you look at this, anyway, one part is nil, whereas the other one, it is outside. If you look at this, of course, both are from this. So least upper bound and greatest lower bound, either it belongs to B itself or it belongs to A, but in particular it is A minus B. So it is not that it is always from B, anything can happen. Okay, so this 2, 3, this is my B. I was focusing on this. So this is B, with respect to this, it is these two. Okay, so if it exists, it is unique and it can be either from B or it can be outside. So what have we discussed so far? Given a partial order relation, and suppose between any two you see a trichotomy property, then you get a total order. That was one concept we looked at. Then given as assay diagram, we see that the elements are ordered. There is an hierarchy among the elements. So one can talk about least element, greatest element and all that. Then we looked at something called least, greatest. Then we looked at minimal, maximal. Subsequently, we looked at lower bounds and upper bounds. So we looked at partial orders. Then there is something called total order. Related to this, something called well order. So you say a set is a well ordered set. For example, you say this one is a well ordered set, or you have assay diagram something like this, and it was representing 0, 1, 2 and all that, right? We were having z less than or equal to. So when you have something like this is a partial order, this is also a partial order, this one is not a total order, this one is a total order. A set is a well ordered set if it is a total order. First it has to be a total order. Then you look at any non-empty subset, A prime, subset of A such that A prime is not empty. For any non-empty subset A prime, there exists a least element. So this one is not a total order. So which means this is not a well order. You take a totally ordered set, which means their assay diagram will be like a linear chain. In that, you choose any subset. For example, if I choose this to be my subset, what is the least element? This is my least element. If you choose this to be your subset, then least element is this. If you take the entire set Z itself, then least element is 0. So if I choose any A prime, then least element exists. Therefore, Z less than or equal to is a well ordered set. Suppose I take I plus comma less than or equal to, then the first element it is I plus, so you start from 1, then you have 2, then you have 3 and so on. You choose any subset. If I choose this subset, then 3 is least, and if I choose something here, then this point will be my least. If you choose the entire I plus, 1 will be least. So this one is a total order, and this is also a well order. Suppose I take I comma less than or equal to. So this is how it is there, right? Now I take I comma less than or equal to. Now this is my I plus, right? On the positive side, if you take anything, it is fine. And how about negative side? So choose A prime to be I minus comma less than or equal to. Suppose this is my A prime. And so you are arranging elements, right? So you have so just for my convenience, I'm writing like this. So you have minus 1, you have minus 2, you have minus 3, and so on. So which means if you look at the antisymmetric arc, minus 2 is small compared to this. So it is minus 2 to this, and it is minus 3 to this, and like that if you go somewhere down, the least element comes. So this is going to be our least element. With respect to this relation, you see that if you take this, then minus 3 is least. If you take this, then this element is least. If you take the entire thing, then this element is least. But we don't know what this element is. We only know minus infinity is just a notation. So we don't know what that number is, correct? So which means I minus less than or equal to is a total order, and it is not a well ordered set. So for every non-empty A prime, I should have least element. Here is one A prime for which no least element exists. So for I minus less than or equal to, there is no least element. For example, if I take this, then this one is least. If you take this finite thing, this one is least. But if you take I minus, then there is no least element. This also tells you, if you take any finite A prime, this is my finite A prime, this is another finite A prime, this is another finite A prime. If you take any finite A prime, then you see that least element exists. But the moment you take an infinite A prime, you see that there is no least element. Okay, so we started off with relations, subsequently special relations or relations satisfying properties such as reflexivity, symmetricity, antisymmetric, asymmetric, and all that. Then we looked at relations satisfying some of them, for example, equivalence relations satisfying reflexivity, symmetricity, and transitivity. Then we looked at partial orders, and from then on we looked at various kinds of special orders, partial orders such as special partial orders such as total order, well order, and so on. And we also arranged the elements of A in some specific form so that we could talk about greatest element, maximal elements, upper bounds, and so on. And it has got plenty of applications because one can arrange the elements of A in some specific fashion and talk about is A is a prerequisite for B, and should B be done after A, and things like that. And now we shall look at another special relation which has got applications in the field of computer science. And again, just like the way we did here, we will discuss that for a while, then couple of examples, and we will bring some variants, and we will take that discussion forward from the next session.